There it is. Welcome everybody to Source Code Groups Weekly. What do we have in the agenda? We're just chatting about updating the Zoom room so that we're all co-hosts on this. So that was the first point. And just a little note that Anastasia, our software engineering test, has returned from parental leave. So welcome back if you're watching this, Anastasia. So that's that. And I wanted to provide a little update. There's not a lot of updates or details in this update, but I just wanted the team to know that interviews are actively happening to find our product manager. And we'll let you know as soon as we have more updates. But for now, it's still ongoing the hunt. Any questions there?
Yep.
All right. So Sean has a point here on the issue-specific discussions and demos, whether we should be moving to internal event tracking. And I added a link here to the issue that covers this. And he says that this would be a big project. Thoughts?
I need to read up on this. I'm not actually completely sure what the internal event tracking is. So I need a little bit more information.
So I can give you some hints. So essentially there was some rework on the engine that tracks, the usage of our features. And my biggest question is, we used to have a form of telemetry before. My biggest question is, what coverage do we have of the previous implementation? Or putting it in a different way, what dashboards exist tracking the usage of source code features? And that's probably a place to start for you, Derek, is checking with Torsten what dashboards are there in place to track the current features. And that's a moment for us to then see, is there anything we want to take out of the usage that we're not getting? And the new way would get us there. Because that's essentially what we just need to understand the usage of the features to better make decisions. Refactoring just for the sake of it is just we won't gain anything. So I'll definitely check in with that. So I'm going to put here a note, maybe worth checking with Torsten about previously used dashboards in terms of usage, MAU, etc., monthly active users. I'm not sure. I'm because my mind is a blur sometimes, so I don't know if the dashboards I'm thinking about is code review or source code, but I think there is something in somewhere. So
there is.
Okay, so you're already aware of that.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm aware of at least one dashboard, but I'll check to see if there's any others.
Right, and when you're doing that, check if there's anything you'd like to know that you're not getting, and then we can check if the new way of doing things could provide that answer. So yeah, this would be a big project because it's from my previous experience with instrumentation and telemetry and all that stuff, it's heavy work, or at least it takes several hoops to go through. But what we can start looking into is new features being wired into the new internal event tracking. So new features should be wired into the new internal event tracking. From the top of my head, the one that I can think of right now, we'll create an issue for the blob. For the blame information in the blob view. So that's the effort that we're doing currently to allow the user when in the blob page to pull in the blame information. And that's almost ready to roll out. We are looking at 16.6 for being able to roll it out. So that's coming soon. So eventually we should be wiring in the telemetry soon-ish, whether before or after the rollout, we can talk about it. But yeah.
There's also, I noticed in this page that it says that we're deprecating the old way of doing it. I'll double check with the analytics PMs to see when that deprecation is happening. because that will definitely change if our timing, if it's going to be happening sooner rather than later.
Right. So we might not have a choice.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Keep us posted and then we can plan the work accordingly. The first step is knowing exactly which one's already tracked, which ones need to be updated. Okay. Any other thoughts on this topic? Cool. So moving on to the next one, the big one. Just wanted to give some updates here. So Jacques and Joe were collaborating there on that document to break down the work for the editing of the branch rules based on Michael's design work and Epic and issues and stuff that he's created and shared. We broke down into several tasks and issues that need to be created, some of them. But for the time being, since we're very close or very tight with the start of the 16.6, the biggest question I have is, should we start picking this up right away? Are we comfortable waiting another milestone? Should we start with front end and back end or just front end? And this is more a question for you, Joe. Do you feel like we have some capacity on the back end that we could use for this? And for you, Derek, what's the urgency there? Should we start as soon as possible? So yeah, that's kind of like what we're trying to figure out.
Yeah,
Joe?
I know. I have spoken to Sean quite recently, and obviously he's out of office at the moment, but he was quite keen to get some stuff into the upcoming milestone 16.6 to move this along, because obviously this has been quite an ongoing project, so it would be good to ship something. I'm not sure. I know Jay's been doing a lot of work on breaking down the list of what we're going to get into 16.6, so I'm not sure exactly how much is in there currently, but hopefully, I mean, if it was my choice, I would say definitely we should put some front end and back end in there. Yeah, I think we're going to need some input from Jay, who's unfortunately in Australia. So currently he's got 37 points, which is actually full capacity. But we could potentially, request that we move some of the features out and slip some of this stuff in.
Sorry, when you say Jay, do you mean that bugs that he's put forward?
Well, so I'm not sure who's been doing the feature pruning. Jay normally does bugs, Sean normally does maintenance, and Derek, I assume at the moment you're maybe doing features. I'm not sure, but
yes,
Jay is
Sean and I usually go through that.
Yeah, okay. So Jay's put in the planning issue, he's put the current, what's currently been scheduled, and there's 25 points on bugs, 2 on maintenance, and 10 on features. So we could potentially, move some of the features out and put some of the branch rule stuff in there. That would be my preference. But obviously that's a decision we can go over later. I think realistically, front end will be blocked unless we do some back end work. I think the very first task that we need to be able to do is creating a branch rule, so that we can visit the branch rule page to actually start editing the data. And that is definitely blocked by backend. We'll need to add a new GraphQL mutation. So at very least, we definitely need to be sticking that one in there. But yeah.
So that means that we could start with the reusable components that we've identified. So there's 2 particular components, or 3, that we've noticed are used across multiple areas of the new edit branch rules, like searching for users, searching for groups, and I think deploy keys. So those 3 are all using sort of the same interaction pattern. So one of the things we're going to need to do at some point is create the front-end infrastructure for those components to be reusable, to have parameters so that we can choose what we're researching. Of course, to have it functioning fully, we need support from the backend to have endpoints for search. Joe, you've already identified some of the things we need to do on the mutations. So that's probably one of the work. Besides that, of creating a model for the branch rule itself, I feel like we could start right away with that kind of work. And we won't be blocked per se because we're just building the reusable components. Of course,
Sure.
we
yeah.
need guidance from UX about the interaction side of things, what it means and everything. There might be some things down the line that we might have to update in terms of endpoints, but the front end work is not blocked necessarily by that. And then later on for 16.7, we need to sit down before and actually check out the interdependencies of all of the steps and everything. But until then, we have time to create the issues and to map out the dependencies, I guess. Okay, so we'll prioritize that reusable component work. That's good. Let me just put that in here. We'll start with the user group deploy keys, reusable components, and try. I think for doing this, and it actually works, having the backend endpoints or queries would be beneficial. But if you can't fit them, that's okay too. Like we can still so try to fit as much as you can in that sense of like the work that we need to do for the searches. But if they're only available in 16.7, we can still like integrate that at a later stage when we're using the actual components. But the big bulk for us is making sure that the architecture on the front end is built, the interaction is built, and then we just say, call a dummy GraphQL Apollo call. And then eventually we can mimic the backend while we don't have the backend to test things. So it'll be okay to get started on that sense.
Yeah.
That's much. Derek, do you want to weigh in on the feature work that Jay highlighted for 16.6?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me is right now just getting an accurate view of what's in 16.6 before I can know what we pull in and what we leave in there and what we push out to 16.7 or beyond. The feature work that Jay pulled in, I think, looks good if we don't have anything else that's moving over, but we know that we do. So that's really the biggest thing right now. But yeah, so if we can make sure that all the issues are updated and have the 16.6 milestone for the things that are slipping, then once that's done, I'll just need help to assign things out once I refine the scope. Okay.
So essentially what I'm hearing is me and Joe can go ahead and update the slippage issues and make them all into 16.6. And then maybe we can all meet, the three of us. I'm not sure if I'll be able to make it today, but perhaps I'll have to see because I have a meeting at my kids' school in a little while. Derek, well, how's your availability? Could you meet in half an hour after this meeting? Because we could get me and Joe half an hour to sort out the issues. And then we can have a chat for 30 minutes in 30 minutes after this call. Would that work?
That should be fine. Yeah.
Joe?
Yeah, well, actually, yeah.
Let's do that. Try to figure that out in 30 minutes. At least we'll have some outcome of that, just to not hog the weekly call with this. So yeah, I'll set that up. I'll put it in our calendars and then we'll go from there. Thanks.
That's good.
Which covers the next point of the agenda, I think, right? Which is 16.6. We could talk about it there. Yeah. Okay. Besides that, anything else that we want to talk about? No. So I think that's it. So see you in a little, like 40 minutes then to finalize 16.6 planning. Cool. Oh, just a heads up. I just looked at Pauline and remembered. There's some accessibility work that she's doing on the working group, the accessibility working group that she's put together, that will be using some of her capacity to do that. I'll make sure that that's in the milestone to plan. And I also want to raise up that having her expertise in the team will give us the opportunity to address some of the lingering accessibility issues. So I've taken a look at the backlog and stuff that we had things lingering, and if not 16.6, we can pick them up at 16.7, but just expect a bit more strength behind accessibility efforts now that we have her on board. And just a heads up that that's going to be improving on the product, which is good news for everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm happy to see that.
Sweet. Thanks, Paulina. All right, now we can go. Now it's everything.